I'm Chief Jennifer Witherspoon. I've been with the Sheriff's Office for now since 2006. I've had the pleasure of working with a wonderful, wonderful boss. You know, people say, oh, my boss is. Seriously, I have a wonderful boss because we see eye to eye on so many things. And now I have the pleasure of introducing him to you. Some of you may have participated in our Choices program. We do Choices program, and we've done it for different schools and organizations throughout Lake County. The sheriff made a commitment to children, to teens, to young adults, to help them make a good start in their lives, to become productive citizens. And so, keeping with that, he's here tonight. He's put this on, and I'd like to introduce to you Sheriff Mark Curran.
So we have a lot of really good speakers that are going to come up here and talk to you about what's going on in terms of the greater picture. And one of the things that is going to be the focus is going to be narcotics. We're talking about heroin, talking about opiates, because those are the ones that are on the great rise. Those are the ones that so many young people are dying to. And we're going to also talk about a little bit about cocaine. We'll talk about prescription meds that are out there right now and how they're destroying lives and affecting us all as well. So ultimately, as we talk about these things, one of the things that's important to know is that there is a battle in terms of drugs, trying to keep them out of the streets, and that's where law enforcement comes in. And we do so by targeting those individuals most responsible for illegal drugs, and that is street gangs. And virtually all of the heroin that's in the supply right now, and virtually every dealer, even down to the low-level street dealer, is connected to a street gang. And it's a reality. And as a result of that, we have to go after street gangs because that's a cancer that's destroying our society. That's the cancer that's affecting all of us in a horrible way. Heroin comes into this country, beginning with the larger gangs, the cartels, the Mexican cartels oftentimes, moves in, and then it winds up in the hands of the street gangs that divide this area. You know, the Latin Kings and the Gangster Disciples being primary gangs, and many other gangs as well. So we go after these gangs in a big way, and we hit them hard. That's what we've been doing in terms of statutes that are directed towards gang activity. Mike Neerheim, the state's attorney, is working hard in terms of being as versed as can be on the gang hierarchy, knowing who's out there so that we can attack the pyramid, so that we can go to the top of the gang chain. And ultimately, what that does is to help drive up the price of the narcotics at a minimum. Obviously, the goal would be to have heroin and cocaine off the streets entirely. But, you know, that's the hope. But in the meantime, the reality that heroin, your initial high for heroin is the equivalent of the price of a six-pack. It makes it very dangerous knowing that this incredibly destructive substance is that cheap. And obviously we want to dry up the supply as much as possible. And we're doing that. We're working with the State's Attorney's Office. We have a gang task force, a newly developed special investigations unit in the Sheriff's Office. Our jail is, I would submit to you, is on a level with any jail in the country in terms of what we're taking in as far as intelligence and putting the pieces of the puzzle together so that we know what's going on. And we continue to do that. We continue to gather more and more data and intelligence by working with the federal government. We have close relationships with FBI and ATF, and that helps us to take down these street gangs and go after the illegal narcotics, certainly the heroin and the cocaine. But the battle can't end there. Obviously, we have to go after the demand as well. And illegal narcotics applies by the same economic principles as essentially any commodity. There's a supply component and there's a demand component. Based upon where they meet, that's where the price is determined. We would like for people not to want to engage in illegal narcotics at all. We'd like the demand to go away. And in order to do that, we've got to get out there and we've got to talk to the reality of what is going on. We have to be honest with you. We talk to you in straight terms. We have people that come in here today and that share their stories, people that are exposed in terms of showing you their vulnerability as to how they've been impacted and how they've been hurt by these drugs. And hopefully we learn from that, we learn from each other, and in doing so, we can carry on the message to others out there. So we have these choices program. This is, as Chief Witherspoon said, she's been in approximately close to 100 schools in Lake County talking to young people about the choices that they make and how that impacts. We have numerous other programs. NICASA, who's here, and who's just a wonderful organization we're blessed to have a relationship with, who's out there giving information. State's Attorney Nierheim is out with a task force of his own, trying to open people's eyes as to what's going on in terms of illegal narcotics. And we do that because ultimately we care so much about the next generation. That's the hope. That's what's got to, help to build this country up so that there is a strong future. One of the things that I can tell you in no uncertain terms, a lot of people, this is a bad thing to talk about, but the reality is what it is. And 12-step programs work wonderfully. And sometimes you need more tools than just a 12-step program, and because there's all kinds of issues that come in to play when people have been engaged in narcotics and why they're doing it. But they work very, very well, and the reason is they've been taken from our faith. And our faith is a powerful roadmap for life here on earth. And ultimately, I've struggled with addictions of my own, and I've come to realize that I think that virtually everyone struggles with some type of a sin addiction, and it's just an absolute reality. Because, as I said, the police on the streets are engaged in a battle, and this is a battle that is essentially right down the middle of each and every one of us. Our souls are at stake, and the devil's fighting for our souls. And these narcotics are the work of the devil, and they're out there to destroy us and corrupt us and give us an attitude and a feeling of hopelessness and despair, that there's nothing worth living for, we're uncared for and we're not unloved. And obviously God does not want that. And so he's out there giving us the tools. He's out there giving us these wonderful people like Jackie Cunningham, what beautiful lady that she is, who's going to get up here and tell you her story. And that's the work of God. And we're at war, and this war is going on, and it's a really powerful war that's going on right now because of the destructive nature of these substances. But the 12-step programs work, as I said earlier, because we begin by surrendering to our higher power, and that's God. And ultimately, through humility, recognizing the fact that we all are sinners, we all have struggles, we're not superior to anyone, but through the grace of working the steps and taking the inventory and ultimately becoming disciples, God will bless you, He will give you hope, He will show you evidence of the great things that you are doing, and that will help you to be inspired to carry on, to keep fighting the fight, the good fight. And as you do that, you'll recognize a couple things. One is, and people who have gone through 12-step programs tell me this time and time again, they said, I was so mad at God that I couldn't acknowledge, I didn't want to acknowledge Him as my higher power. Instead, it was the program. Then they saw evidence of wild things happening, which they could only attribute to God. And that's what happens in this. So I believe it is the work of our Lord that we're all here today. And you're going to be moved when you hear these stories. You're going to see some authenticity, some realness, some genuine love, that they want this message to be carried out beyond, and they want you to take it out beyond. And when you hear these messages, we would ask you to help us. Join in the battle. Love your brothers and sisters on earth, and bring them the message in genuine concern for them and their well-being. In truth as to what these drugs do to them and just how devastating they are. And in the end, remember, we must continue to fight the good fight. You must never give up. You will not be done until you hear those words. Well done, my good and faithful servant. Welcome into the kingdom of your master.
I'm Mike Nierheim. I just wanted to come out and thank you all for being here. And thank you to Sheriff Curran for having the courage and the leadership to step out and talk about this. This is something that Sheriff Curran and I struggle with all the time in terms of looking at this issue on a county-wide basis and recognizing that this is something that affects every one of us, all our families, all our kids, and getting people all over Lake County to see that this is a problem. And it's really more than a problem, it's an epidemic. And we're talking mostly about heroin and opiate overdoses, but it's not just heroin and opiates, it's certainly crack cocaine, methamphetamines, and another often forgotten part of this, as you'll hear tonight, is prescription medication. Our kids think that if a pill is made by Abbott Lab and it comes in an orange bottle, it won't hurt you. And we're seeing kids dying left and right from overusing or misusing those medications. The other problem is that's how they're getting introduced to heroin in the first place. They get addicted to Oxycontin or whatever it might be. They realize that the pills are pretty expensive, 80, 20, 30, 40 bucks a pill. Well, they can go buy heroin, it's a lot cheaper and it gives them the same high. And then their life is dramatically different. We've had more people die in Lake County last year of heroin overdose than we have of car accidents. And that's a trend we're seeing nationwide. So this is serious. We've seen people overdose the first time they've tried it. So that's why I'm glad to see young people out here. I'm glad to see parents out here, because the struggle we face is getting people, as I said, to see this as a problem. Unless you've dealt with it or had a loved one deal with it, the common thing to do is just think, well, that doesn't happen to me, not my kids. My kids wouldn't do that. Well, those are the kids that we're seeing having problems. So parents have to pay attention. Grandparents have to lock up medication, get rid of it, get it out of your houses. Pay attention to your kids. You're going to hear some great speakers tonight. These are speakers that I've heard several times, and every time I hear them, I still learn something. So I'm excited to be here and learn from them. And again, I just want to thank everybody for being here. Know that we're working hard. This is something we care about, which is why we're here tonight, why the sheriffs put these on all over Lake County, and everybody's here to take their time to come out here and hopefully teach you something. I want to thank the chief and the mayor for their leadership. This isn't something a lot of people want to talk about. And I think a lot of people think, well, the police, they just want to arrest people. Prosecutors just want to put people in prison and we don't care. And that's not true. We do care, which is why we're here. We could arrest people all day long. Putting people in prison is easy, but that's not going to solve the problem. We're not going to arrest our way out of this problem. We need to treat people, as the sheriff said. We got to work on the supply end of this and really help people. And if you're somebody that wants help or wants education, we're here for you. So again, thank you for being here. I'm not going to talk long because you need to hear from these folks here. So thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff Kern and State's Attorney Nierheim. Again, my name is Leon Rockingham, Mayor of the City of North Chicago. And, as mayor, let me just say, it affects my town, First of all, I was born and raised in North Chicago. I could tell you stories of, when I graduated in 1973, and it might have been a few years ago, but, the sad part about it is, I look back on my streets now, and some of the guys that I graduated with are still hanging out on corners, and what does that do? How does that affect my town? How does it affect the image of my community? I'm trying to bring in development into my town, and North Chicago's got that image. And that image is out there: drugs, crime, and alcohol, and other prostitution. But where does it all stem from? It stems from that drugs that are out there that people want to get a hold of. And that's why, it's hard for us as a city to try to move forward. But we have to know that working with our state's attorney, working with our sheriff, working with our chief to try to eliminate these problems. I could sit here and talk to you about when I was growing up, there was in my hood, and as they call it, which was on 1637 Elizabeth. That's where I grew up at. And right in that Greenfield, Seymour, that was our town, that was our hood. But there was a young man that I grew up with, best friends through from the time I was, be able to ride a bike. But this guy, when he came through, he went to college, got a degree, got a job with Abbott's, was married, had kids, but he got hooked. He got hooked on drugs. And to see my friend go from where he was at in his life to back down, living back on Greenfield right now, knowing that it was through drugs that caused him to do that. Those are things that affect me. Those are things that I can just say, we have to somehow get to the young adults to say, this isn't the way. It's hard. I know it is. You have friends that have been on the drugs, and I'm sure that you're going to hear stories about it. I seen it in a way that it was, it didn't affect me directly, but it affected my town. It affects the city of North Chicago, and I've been mayor for about 9 years now, and I'm still working to try to say, what can we do as a community to try to eliminate this? I've had an opportunity to sit on boards, and which is the Illinois Municipal League. And this is a board that mayors are coming from all over Illinois. And I was downstate Illinois, down by St. Louis. And, the same thing that we're talking about here is going on down there. Heroin and drugs that our kids are going in and losing their lives for no reason. You're at the prime of your life. You are at a stage, a lot of the young adults right now are at a stage that, you should be looking forward to getting married and having kids and having a life that, you should be happy and respond to. But they've lost theirs. And their parents now are grieving, and their relatives are grieving for something that's out on the streets, that somebody wants to make money, and they don't care who's it affect and how it affects them. So we have to sit down, and not just us, not just us, but the young adults have to be out there to work with us also, to work with us to say what's out there. We talk about the gangs that are there and how it's affecting it, but somehow we have to solve and try to eliminate this problem. I'm looking at a young man from Youthville that is out there that has shown me, and I've worked with, had an opportunity just to deal with in a small opportunity to see that the young adults do care, that they are out there wanting to make a change. But as adults, we've got to also help them too. So, don't think that this is a problem just for the adults, but the youth got to be involved also. And we've got to bring them in and make sure that they help us to try to eliminate some of the problems that exist. So, again, I didn't want to take up a lot of time also. We do want to hear, but I thank you, Sheriff Kern for putting this together, State's Attorney Nierheim for being a part of it, because it's going to take all of us. It's going to take each and every one of us working together to help to try to decrease the problem, because you're not going to eliminate it. That's just, let's be real. They are bringing drugs in from all over. You can't eliminate them, but we can help to try to decrease what we have and try to save a life here, within our community. So, again, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity. Thank you for hosting it here in the city of North Chicago and bringing this out also. With that, I'm going to bring up my Chief of Police, Chief Jackson, who I also have a word. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief. And again, I would like to say we're proud to be here as a partner and again to make a difference in your lives. Again, the Lake County Sheriff Curran invited us, and again, they back us up and assist us with our issues in North Chicago in regards to narcotics. We're working hand in hand with his teams, and we're working with the Lake County State's Attorney Nearheim with his staff. We are going to make a difference, but the most important thing we want you to understand, you can make a difference within your life. We understand that narcotics, it destroys families and it destroys a community. We don't want that. We want better for you. We want this year to be a successful year in which we do a self-analysis of what we're doing and individuals that we know that are engaged in these endeavors. We don't want you being involved with these guys. If they don't get it, we want you to get it. This is your life. This is your future. And again, we see the stains of what happens when you're involved with narcotics. It brings you down. It destroys you. Health-wise, financially, family, everything is gone. We can do better. And by working with you, educating you, we can make a difference. We want this year to be a banner year, which we don't have the large incidents of overdose victims of our young people. We want you to be educated, go to school, focus to be something, and make a difference in our community. And again, we're here. We want to have a dialogue where you feel free to talk to us at any given time in regards to issues. We're not here just to put bad people away. We're here to help you also. This is your community. This is your life. And again, we can make a difference. The Lake County Sheriff have an excellent staff, and this is their expertise, which they decided they want to do to educate and make a difference in regards to our children, our young adults. And again, this is a great program. Looking forward to seeing the results at the end of the year where I know you'll take it to heart, not get involved. This is your community, this is your life.
This is what I'm going to get into tonight. It's going to be helping parents just to identify some of the problems. Drugs exceed motor vehicle accidents. We got 38,329 people that died nationwide. That's more than our car accidents throughout the whole United States. That's a serious problem. Again, over $600 billion spent annually to help people with addictions. Ain't that a lot of after-school programs that we don't have no more? Ain't that a lot of other benefits for people? This is getting burnt up through drugs. It's a sin, it's a shame. And it starts with us. That's how it's going to change. You gotta get off the couch, you gotta report it. I grew up in Chicago. I know what it's like to kind of grow up and hate the police. I get it. But shame on you if you don't look out your window and help us. I did some research. We got maybe 1,200 officers out here. Maybe. And some of those don't even hit the streets. But we got 8,000 to 10,000 documented gang members. I know, I've been documenting them for almost 24 years with the Sheriff's Department. Every Chicago gang is out here, period. We're outnumbered. We need your help. It's the truth. Tonight I come as a friend. No gun, no handcuffs. I'm a friend. I'm a father figure. What I'm telling you tonight and sharing is the honest to God's truth. That tolls have doubled. Think about it, every 14 minutes. So by the time we get done talking tonight, I would say at least 8 to 10 people have died. Isn't that a tragedy? We're here educating, and we've already lost lives. Before we even started tonight, people are dying. This should be a wake-up call for everybody in this room. Some of the drugs that's being abused, you got Oxycontin. These are your opiates. This just starts this cycle. It's brutal. Because the problem is once the kids start messing with these medications, sooner or later you can't get the pills. You can't afford it, and the doctor ain't going to give you a prescription. You know, unless you find somebody that's corrupt, and they're out there. And it's a shame because they're defeating the whole purpose of legit medication. But once you start messing with them, you get hooked on that opiate, now you can't afford it. So what do you turn to? $10 heroin. It's a shame. It's cheaper than weed right now. You know, it's cheaper than a good bottle of booze. And the gangs and the cartels know what they're doing because once you do heroin, they own you. I see it in the jail. The girls, they're burnt up. 17, 18, 19-year-olds, they're fried. They're cooked. They've been passed around. The guys are wore out. They're almost on purpose coming to jail to get a break from the streets. And these are young kids that probably won't have a fair chance now. You know, because in society, once you get a felony charge, you're burnt up. You know, you start messing with drugs, you get a 2-3 year span on your resume that's blank. People are going to know you're not going to school, you have no accountability, so what were you doing? clowning. You weren't on that path. You were on the wrong path. And this is the truth. You got the depressants, Xanax, Valium, Ativan, Klonopin. So many people do this because it's almost like doing an opiate. You get that kind of drowsy, you feel like kind of cool, a little heavy. That's not what life's about. It destroys you at the end of the day. And then you end up being so selfish with this that you destroy your family. You destroy your loved ones. You got stimulants, Adderall, Ritalin, all these, they pass out in the school because the kids get them. And the sad part is parents need to control the medications. You can't say, here's your medication. You're responsible. We're talking 13, 14, 15-year-olds. Are you kidding me? That's somebody being a friend, not a parent. So these medications are getting passed out into schools like candy. The kids develop, their mind develops this feeling. I like that feeling. There goes school. There goes their life that quick. Why do people take drugs? These are some of the reasons. Want to fit in, want to escape, they're bored. Media, what a shame. You know what, police officers, firemen, people that are productive in society, they're dramatized by our media. You know, because one officer does something wrong somewhere, every officer in the United States is blackballed now. Same with firefighters, your lawyers, your medical staff, your teachers. But they will glorify people doing drugs, Scarface, Boys in the Hood. Ain't that all glorified? I deal with kids wearing Scarface t-shirts, and when I talk to them, it's like, man, you know that guy died at the end. But man, Sarge, he had a car, he had the money, but he died. But Sarge, did you see the house? It's like, he died. But Sarge, he had everything. They don't get it, and it's a shame. You're in the cash business. You're going to get killed. It makes them seem grown up. That's why parents, you can't be clowning, because you really set an example for the rest of their child's life. They want to rebel, they want to experiment, want to relax. Maybe they're a little depressed, anxiety, feeling of happiness, develops courage. You know, how many crimes have been committed because somebody got jacked up? And they're all just saying, I can pull this robbery off, I can do this home invasion. You know what, I can sell these couple ounces right now. That's called false courage, not developing courage. You're going to end up by me. Face life. Your best chance of fate in life is just don't have friends around you that say it's cool to do drugs. Again, you're going to be by me. Some of the signs, parents, the sudden changes, the mood swings, the negative attitude, the personality change. This is step one. This is where it begins. So you got to stop and say, hey, come here a second. How are you doing today? Look them in the eyes. The eyes don't lie. You got to trust me on this. Eyes don't lie. But as parents, I know you're wore out from working. You're fighting a good battle every day, trying to provide. You got to stop and look at your kids. You can't trust them. I've given a ton of gang presentations where I do all these hand signs, and the kids in the audience will tell me every gang that I just flashed. And the parents are shocked, they're stunned. You could see almost the whole audience scoot up on their chairs, look at their kids and say, how do you know this? Parents, your kids know what's going on outside the house. You don't. You got to develop a better rapport with the kids. You got to talk to them. The whole thing is bring them up to your level, because once you go down to their level, they're not going to respect you. You're a friend. Friends come and go, and that's the way they're going to treat you. Extreme changes in groups of friends. I mean, if it's like, I'm going to go out with so-and-so, but he's going to meet me down the street, that's bells and sirens should be going off. That's wrong. They should be coming to the door as a child and meeting you, knowing who you are, and you knowing who they are. That's part of the battle right there. Forgetfulness, clumsiness, you know, maybe some kids don't have that athletic ability, but at least look at it closer. You know, lying, being deceitful. My son's been messing around with heroines, and I'll get into that a little bit, but this lying and being deceitful, they know how to play your heartstrings. They will lie to you, you will cry together, and they will still ask you for money at the end of the conversation. You got to be on top of it. the munchies, that kind of deals like with cannabis. Because when you're doing the opiates and the stimulants and the depressants and all that other stuff, you ain't eating, because you're not going to ruin that buzz. You're living for that high, so you don't take care of yourself. Bloodshot eyes. You know what, don't say it's my kid's contacts, because that's the sin I did. When I started dealing with my son, messing around with drugs. It's like, man, it's just his contacts, we just got them for him. You know, he's tired, well, he stayed up last night, so he was on the computer. Made excuses. I have to live with that now for the rest of my life. Poor performance, and anything you do, the drugs may tell you, like, hey man, I could dunk this basketball today, I could hit this home run, I could run 10 miles. That's your mind lying to your body. You know, so again, it's like false courage. It comes with doing drugs. Borrowing money or stealing, period. That's their goal. They'll sell the last TV in the house, the only computer. They'll take silverware and sell it. It's brutal. You know, you got to act on this. Don't look the other way and say, you know what, it's a phase. Because 24 years ago, when I came out here from Chicago, I was serious about gangs. And you know what I heard from everybody? Oh, it's just a phase. You know, guy's going through his thing. No, we lost 3 or 4 generations out here. Now we're going to watch this next generation go to jail if we don't do something. I know. I work in the jail. It's crowded. And it's 17 to 21, where before would be kind of older people, like 19 to like 25. It's ridiculous. We got to do something to save this generation. Some of the effects, you'll see slow breathing, the seizures, the dizziness, weakness, the coma, confusion, vomiting, small pupils, big pupils, tiredness. If you got a 17 to 25 years old and he's like a little tired, if he's working, cool, talk to him. But if he ain't working, there's a problem there. If you can't get him up to go get a job in the morning, there's something wrong. If he's staying out all night away from the house, he's doing something that ain't right. You have to act on this. You know, some of the common signs, you're going to build up a tolerance. Once you do that, you're in deep. It's hard to get back out. You've got to take other drugs to try to relieve withdrawal symptoms. Because I've detoxed my son. You know what it's like to detox somebody? Getting dope sick? We may laugh about it because it don't affect us right now. But when you hold your own child or your brother or your sister and they're detoxing, it will change your attitude. They're young. They can't even walk. They can't even get up to go to the bathroom. You're constantly getting a cold washcloth to just try to cool them down. They're crying. They're incoherent. That's dope sickness. And we see it all the time on the floors of the jail. You can't even keep these people in bed because they roll out. They want to feel the cold floor. They need help. That's what happens at the end of the day of doing drugs. You know, and this is the bad part right here. You continue to use drugs despite knowing it's hurting you. I've seen people with pus dripping out of their arms, abscesses, and they're still got room to do that shot. They haven't learned from it. You know, they're just going to die. Or they get institutionalized and spend most of their years in jail. I've seen that. I've seen that with 3 generations now. Again, we've got to step up and try to save this next generation. Some of the withdrawal symptoms, here you go. Is it really worth doing drugs? You're going to go through the tiredness, the fatigue, the yawning all the time, the sweats. I used to see an outline of my son on the sheets from going through the withdrawals. You know, your heart goes insane. You know, it's like I could hold my son and you could feel everything in his body, the pain from the withdrawals. You know, you cry, you break down, you lose your freaking mind with him. Because when you do drugs, you're taking your parent with you. You're taking your brother, you're taking your sister. Everybody goes up that road with you. So it's selfish when you start doing drugs. Joints and muscles aches, you got nausea, vomiting, watery eyes, depression, diarrhea, insomnia. He couldn't even sleep. His eyes would be closed, but you could see them blinking. Can't sleep when you're coming off dope. Uncontrollable coughing. It's brutal. It's a dry cough. It hurts your stomach. It gives you a headache. That's just one of many symptoms. Again, look at everything that happens. There ain't one positive thing on there when you start messing with prescribed medications. Not one positive thing. It kills every organ in your body when you abuse it. It's made for a reason. It definitely ain't made for pleasure. That's what everybody wants to take this stuff for, a pleasure, to feel cool. Again, the dream of what they tell you or the promises you do this, everything will be good, it's a lie. Everything is a lie about drugs. It don't make anything go away. It makes it worse for you. Same Vicodin, one of the most popular drugs out here. Same symptoms. It's killing you when you abuse it. Okay, does anybody know what the silent killer is? There you go. We got communities sticking their heads in the sand and not facing the problem. How many neighborhoods have we lost where you can't even walk out there holding hands with your loved ones? Or have your kids go out in the community at night? A lot. It's all over. Again, this has affected me with my son messing around with heroin. He was just clean and sober for 6 months. And you take every day, a half day at a time. 2 halves equal a whole. And you praise him like, oh my God, you made it another day. Well, I got a phone call yesterday from my sister saying that my sister-in-law seen him down at Union Station with a sign and a cup, panhandling. He took off Friday, got paid, went through his check on the weekend, now he's panhandling. Now, how do you get somebody off the streets that's 26 years old? If I go and rip them off the streets, I could get arrested for battery, period. You know, so parents, you gotta hang on to your kids. This is brutal. Heroin, it's a life of pain and suffering that can lead to death. We already know that. Look at that needle. How can that be pleasurable? Some of the deadly facts. In the past decade, we went from 6.8 metric tons in 2002 to 50 metric tons in 2011. Now, you know what the lie is right there? They're saying 50 metric tons. But don't you think they like cut that up? So you may be looking at 100 tons. That's more than 2 tons per state. And what's devastating is when you're outside walking around, you're finding needles out there. Look at how dirty this is. Has anybody seen needles on the streets out there? They're all over. You know what's sad? You can walk into any CVS, any Walgreens, and get 20 needles and not even get in trouble. And what's most disturbing is look at all this. Pop cans, cigarette butts, they use the filters, the spoons. This was in my house. This is what I found. How do you stop it? I still haven't figured it out. My son's been to rehab 12 to 15 times. Detox, he's overdosed 3 times. You know, and he survived. It's a living bad world. I mean, it's just incredible. That's why I'm so passionate, because we got to save each other here, because the dope dealers don't care. Most of your dope dealers don't even do heroin, and they're out there selling it because it's about the money. And this is where it starts. That little bit will ruin your life, and you'll take your parents with you. That's all it takes. That little bit. And the dope dealer will give it to you free. Because at the end of the week, he owns you. There's no getting out. Now you're going to be his property, because that's the way the dope dealers treat people, as property. You'll have the money for dope, and they'll make you beg for it. Because they don't care. They think they got the power. We had over 3,500 people die from heroin. Some of the symptoms: short of breath, dry mouth, constricted pupils, sudden change in behavior, disorientation, droopy appearance. You know, some of the signs: needles and syringes. This is what I found in my house. Needles, syringes, burnt spoons. I mean, you start off with a dozen spoons. Within a week or two, now you got 10, now you got 8. Spoons shouldn't disappear out of a house. Should be a warning sign. Missing shoelaces. You see a shoe with a shoestring, the other one missing, that's abnormal. You gotta act on that. There's something wrong with that. The straws, the burn marks, small plastic bags with the residue in it. You're a parent, not a friend. Some of the symptoms: weight loss, runny nose, track marks, infections, abscesses. I mean, we get guys with the Popeye arm, swollen up, dripping pus. You know, we fatten them up, get their life back together. You can see them walking with confidence. They're back a couple months later, strung out, sick on the floor. Some of the symptoms, again, it's an opiate. You get the depressed, breathing, cloud of mental functioning, decreased pain. That's what's scary, decreased pain from physical or emotional challenges. So I mean, nothing gets to them because it's the buzz. They could be living on the streets, living in the bushes, dirty, nasty, and pain from sleeping on the ground. It don't faze them because they're going to do whatever it takes to get that next shot. Some of the signs, oh my God, you get pneumonia, the blood clots, bacterial infections. This is what we deal with in jail. HIV, hepatitis B and C. Unfortunately, my son caught hepatitis C. It can't get any worse. That is the worst thing. And people know, once they get our kids on it, they own them. You know, you end up with death. The symptoms of going through withdrawal, it's just devastating to watch somebody you love go through all this. And every step, it's the truth. This is what they go through. The seizures, the shakes. You know, we see it on TV. It's like, oh, it's no big thing. You know, we almost accept it. But when it's in your house, it's a wake-up call. Again, look at how everything dies inside your body. There isn't one good thing up there that you could tell me heroin is good for. Cocaine, people are still enjoying it in the bars, thinking it's all cool, and it's not. Again, this money is funding so many other stuff that don't even help our communities. It destroys our communities. Over 2 million regular users. That's a figure. I mean, that's huge. More than 400,000 babies are born addicted to cocaine every year. You know, and you know what's sad? U.S. has got the highest appetite for cocaine compared to all these other countries. And these countries are making the drugs, and we got a bigger appetite than them. You know, again, it could be injected, smoked, or snorted. Street names: coke, dust, toot, line, nose, hundreds of names. You know, and people think these are code words. They're not. We're hip to them. We know what's going on. We just need your help reporting this. Rock cocaine came out in the 80s. Powerful. People smoked it one time, they were hooked on it. You know, and that changed the population in the jails. Incredible. People come in with the cracked lips, burnt tongues, because you're trying to smoke it all the way to the end. It's devastating, and it's still out there. Again, it contains a synthetic cannabinoids, almost like THC, but it's not THC. This stuff will make you sick. You go in convulsions and everything. These are the chemicals that they outlawed. And the sad part is, this stuff is marked not for human consumption. It's on the packages, and the kids will, and all that does is cover the companies, and the kids know that. You know, common sense as adults, when we see not for human consumption, we're like, well, that's not going in my mouth. The kids are drawn to it. The way they package the stuff, like with Scooby-Doo on it and all this other stuff, it draws the kids to it like it's okay to do. You know, I'm glad they got involved because now it's a felony charge if you get caught. Some of the nicknames: Bliss, Black Mamba, Fake Weed, Genie, Spice, Chaotic. Again, it's terms our kids are drawn to. These guys that make this stuff, they know what they're doing because it's a $1 billion business. Again, this is how it's packaged. You know, like right here, it says not for human consumption, chaotic. Bath salts, pretty bad drug. You know, and when you hear bath salts, you're thinking like, you know, Calgon and all this other stuff they got. It's nowhere near that. These are synthetic drugs. A catatonin, it's like an amphetamine. It's just bad. It's a bad drug. It kind of eats you from the inside out. And if you know somebody's going through distress over this, remember, call 911. They'll be there to help you. Thank you for your time.
This is our IT director, one of the smartest guys that I know. Anybody that can diagnose computer problems like that, and he does it second to none. But he's also going to share with you a very powerful story.
Thank you, sir. My nightmare with heroin came around 2010, January. I got a phone call from my daughter's high school, and they had said that she was nodding off, and they were very concerned, and they had to get her to the hospital. So, of course, my immediate concern at that point was getting to the hospital. It wasn't long thereafter, maybe an hour or so after blood work and everything came back, that she had an opiate in her system, which I later learned or found out was heroin. At that point in time, our life and her life and every friend and every relative of hers and her mother, her father, myself, her cousins, their life has forever changed along with hers. As she kind of rides this heroin highway with respect to the ups and downs of heroin, everything from use, withdrawal, recovery, use again, and that repeats again and again and again. It's kind of the worst place you ever want to be. It's the worst thing I've ever faced as a parent, as an adult. While she's running that route, it's an emotional roller coaster for the rest of the people around her. She has lied, stolen, pawned jewelry from the house, her sister's clothing. It doesn't make a difference. It's all with the intent of going after that drug, and that drug is absolutely relentless. It is overpowering, and it can't be controlled. But one thing for certain, she's my daughter, and I will absolutely never, ever give up on her. I will stand behind her 100%. It's tough even bringing her in the home because I worry that she's going back, she's going to steal, but she's my daughter. I can't do it. I pushed her out of the house once. She spent the evening in Waukegan out on the streets. It was the snow this past year, this past winter. And I spent every minute of every hour checking where she was because she had her phone on. I was lucky enough that she had her phone with her. Who is this girl? Kelly. It's my daughter. Just a little bit. She's my little baby girl. She's always going to be my little baby girl. She's everything you expect of a daughter. A good student. The time that I learned about this, she was actually graduating from high school early because she wanted to get off to college. A cheerleader. She had great grades. She had big expectations. Here's her as an adult. She's also a woman now. She's 22 years old. She started this when she was 18. She's also a sister. She has sisters, cousins, and she's also her sister's best friend. They are the closest people you're ever going to meet. And along with, as my daughter Kelly struggles, so does her sister, and it doesn't stop. Sometimes my daughter has to back away just to be able to work through the day. She has to back away from her sister. And of course, she's always my little girl, my daughter. The next slide I want to show you is Lake County. And as Dale, Sergeant Navarro's brought up, the deaths and the how many there are and how they continue, and they are throughout Lake County. The scary part about this, from my perspective, is the fact that what they don't show, and that's the conservative estimate is probably about 150,000 people that are getting hooked on heroin, and they're getting younger and younger every year. And it's, that's 150, anywhere between that and 190,000. If I break that out and look at it from a death perspective, that's about 50 additional people with every person that dies just last year that started heroin and started it for the first time. And those are people that will live an absolute life of misery, and the folks around them, unless you're capable of separating yourself from it, and it's not always easy to do. You'll travel down that path as well. It's not easy, and they keep on coming. Different people come to forums like this for different reasons. Help. There's help out there. There's always help. I found myself in a forum like this not too long ago because I had nowhere to go. I had nothing. I didn't know where to go, what to do, and where do you even begin? At one of those forums, there was a young girl who spoke. I think she works in Waukegan at the hospital. She had lost 2 brothers to heroin, 1 year apart from each other. And she read something that so impacted me. And I apologize, I'm going to read this from this sheet of paper, but it hit me deep inside. And it was probably one of the most moving things for me, and encapsulating in terms of what heroin does to a person's life. I destroy homes, tear families apart, take your children, and that's just the start. I'm more costly than diamonds, more costly than gold. The sorrow I bring is a sight to behold. And if you need me, remember, I'm easily found. I live around you in schools and in town. I live with the rich, I live with the poor, I live down the street, and maybe next door. My power is awesome, try me, you'll see. But if you do, you may not break free. Just try me once and I might let you go. But try me twice and I'll own your soul. When I possess you, you'll steal and you'll lie. You'll do what you have to just to get high. The crimes you'll commit for my narcotic charms will be worth the pleasure you'll feel in your arms. You'll lie to your mother, you'll steal from your dad, and when you see their tears, you should feel sad. But you'll forget your morals and how you were raised. I'll be your conscience, I'll teach you my ways. I take kids from their parents and parents from kids. I turn people from God and separate friends. I'll take everything from you, your books and your pride. I'll be with you always, right by your side. You'll give up everything, your family, your home, your friends, your money, and soon be alone. I'll take and take till you have nothing more to give. When I've finished with you, you'll be lucky to live. If you try, may be warned, this is no game. If given the chance, I'll drive you insane. I'll ravish your body, I'll control your mind. I'll own you completely, your soul will be mine. The nightmares I'll give you lying in bed, the voices you'll hear from inside your head, the sweats, the shakes, the visions you'll see, I want you to know these are all gifts from me. But then it's too late and you'll know in your heart that you are mine and we shall never part. You'll regret you tried me, they always do, but you came to me, not I to you. You knew this would happen, many times you were told, but you challenged my power and you chose to be bold. You could have said no and just walked away. If you could live that day over, now what would you say? I'll be your master, you'll be my slave. I'll even go with you when you go to your grave. Now that you have met me, what will you do? Will you try me or not? It's all up to you. I can bring you more misery than words can tell. Come take my hand, and I'll lead you to hell. And that for me encapsulated everything that heroin
does to anybody. And for the parents, and for the kids, think about what it does to your family, and the direction that you'll head, and all the things that you have that are positive and good to look forward to that will disappear, and rapidly. And you, good likelihood, given this, you may never get them back. So, thank you very much.
Introduce a longtime friend, one of the real great guys who, I remember when he was a real great athlete as well. That was a couple decades ago. Who's going to introduce his sister, and we're very blessed to have Sam Cunningham here with us, who's does some great work with Chief Witherspoon throughout all these communities.
Thanks, Sharon. Wow, we've heard a lot of good messages today, but I want to read that first line again. I destroy homes, tear families apart. I take children, and that's just the start. Wow. That sounds like to me what the sheriff was talking about earlier. It sounds like the devil to me. Doesn't it sound like the devil to you? Yeah. And my sister reminded me just a few minutes ago, it is the devil. I look at my sister and I say to her from 2005, and she just reminded me again, she said, I got tired 2005 on the birthday of my oldest child. And that's when that road of recovery started for her. But before it went there, and Jackie was probably the strongest little girl that I ever met in my life. She wouldn't back down to nobody, would always take chances. And I often would wonder, how could she get caught up into this and not be able to just break it? I'm going to continue this story once Jackie has told her story. So I introduce the song and present to others my sister, Jackie Cunningham.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jackie Cunningham. I'm currently in long-term recovery. As of October 26, 2005, I am currently going into my 8th year of recovery. One of the most important things, though, from Mark Curran all the way to Jeff, that I wanted to reach out to say, I've said it over and over and over again, I want to thank my mom. I have to thank you. Because no matter what, my mind right now is me being in the Lake County Jail time after time after time. And no matter what, who came, no matter what, my mom was always there. Not really wanting to understand, not knowing what it is, not whatever, because I can recall when it was a time, Mike, you wasn't the state's attorney at the time, Mr. Waller was, and they said to my mom, you need to face the fact that your daughter is a drug addict. And she said, no, she's not. She's not a drug addict. And for her to come back and tell me that she had to face that, I think that was a moment for me, even though I hadn't started really transitioning into changing my life. It's something that played a big part of me that stuck inside of me. So that was like my 4th year of starting my process of changing. Because yes, I did relapse several times after that. But it was always something new, because after my mom came Dale Navarro. I had been placed in work release. And to know that somebody, words that people say to you can just be something that's getting this evil thing off of you. Just certain words. Then I met Sheriff Mark Curran. A simple handshake. You can do this. Through all these steps, I want to say to the County of Lake for helping me to become the woman that I am. I'm a full-time student at the College of Lake County. I'm a homeowner. I drive a 2005 Toyota Avalon. I serve on the County of Lake Regional Planning Board of Commissions. I am a NACASA substance abuse employee. I have a savings account, I have a checking account, I have credit cards. We don't want to talk about that. However, I am trusted again in my community with people that at one time that I didn't even know how to have a conversation with. I will be coming up on my 8th year in October, and I am currently going to Wisconsin to speak at a women's retreat to speak to over 2,500 women about what recovery is about. There's so many good things that have happened, but Sheriff, Mike, State's Attorney, Dale, Alderman Cunningham, Commissioner, you all are the reason why people every day, it may just be one and it may just be two, however, people do recover. It's just a matter in the person wanting it to work. I don't want to take up a lot of time. I just wanted to say that I'm very, very grateful to know that the County of Lake is taking a stand on wanting to help those that are in trouble with drugs. Because we are a recovery county, and I stand here as one of those people that you all have taken a stand on whatever it may have been. I'm a living witness that you guys are doing your jobs. Thank you.
I'm gonna give you perspective not as an alderman, but as a brother and a friend. To talk about my sister, I had to talk to you about who she was. Jackie was the big brother of the house. You know, when my mom wasn't there, you know, Jackie was the, you know, she's the one who ran the home. And similar to my mother, Jackie was fearless. And only because she had to watch over us. And with that, I always thought there's nothing that she couldn't do, couldn't be. And as brothers, mothers, uncles, loved ones, you have that about those who are fighting this devil, you want to call it. But what really hurt us is I couldn't understand why she couldn't kick it. It's just this. It's just, what is it? Just drugs. You can get over that. Anyone can, right? Particularly my sister. I'm like, so I got angry with her. I got really, really upset, like, you know, you doing all this running around here, and you can't beat this. You were able to fight boys, play ball, you know, have a child at a young age. You were able to do all that, and you can't keep this? What's wrong with you? And I really, really got upset with her. Didn't want to talk to her anymore. Every time I saw her, I just didn't want to be around her. But I, too, had to understand that this is something that she just can't handle by herself. This is a disease. This drug thing is a disease, nothing just like cancer, diabetes. And we have to understand that we need help to fight cancer. We need drugs or help to fight diabetes. Well, they have to get help with this disease as well. But we as family members, sometimes because of the love and affection that we have for our family members who are doing these drugs, you've heard of them, sometimes we become the enablers for them. My sister will call, I would run. It is natural for us to do that. But when we run, folks, we're running to help them continue with that habit. And parents out here, listen. Don't think you didn't do something right. You went to football games, basketball games, cheerleading, took them to the doctor, got the shots, made sure they were in school. You did all the right things. You can't blame yourself. I did. We began to blame ourselves for something that they were doing. But we have to find the help that's out there. And thank God for the county. All the resources that are out there. I'm here to tell you today, the sheriff, state's attorney, my mom, myself, most of us look at us as politicians, but today I'm not a politician. They're not. They're here to tell you that from an enforcement standpoint, we're going to enforce those who bring that poison to our community. They're going to do that. But today we're talking to you about how this affects our families. And God knows it does. This poem has laid it out more than anything on the face of this earth. I will take your mother, your child. I could be the man next door. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to tell you, I never thought that my sister couldn't beat this disease by herself. And sometimes, as family members, we think that. But you need to understand, you can't beat this thing by yourself. You need help. We have the help. But when my sister told me, I said, what changed you? She said, I got tired. I said, what do you mean you got tired? I got tired. And when they get tired, as family members, you got to be there to help them. You can't turn your back on them. Because that is when we have to come and do our job as family members. They need to run over here, run them. They need to be at the doctor, take them. Because that is the time that we can now begin that healing process to get them over that hump. And let me tell you about Jackie. The first time she came in, it was about a month. She went through, the work release and all that, leg monitor, phone calls. Again, I didn't understand that. The second time she came was 6 months. The third time was almost a year. Then the fourth time, it was it. And for those of you, believe me, we grew up in public housing, but we didn't understand this drug thing. It just wasn't allowed in our household. You heard my sister. If you don't know my mother, you will. One thing was not tolerated is about them drugs. So this was all new to us. But man, when she came in, she was ready. And then we as family members got to be ready with her. Now, I wanted her to be the Jackie of the old. But it took time for that to happen. It took a long time. And I am blessed, along with Dale and a host of others, that one day the end result of all of this that we're going through will be the Jackie Cunningham. And it's a lot of them out there. A whole lot of them that are out there. We got to go get them. But don't you dare, please, do not become an enabler for them as they're going through this process. Because if you do, you will continue to help them be out there. I'm going to close with this. To watch my sister today, which I'm very excited and happy for her, but I only tell her, look what you could have been if you'd have started 20 years ago. And that is what we really, really have to understand. Be happy for them, appreciate them, but we got to keep them moving on. I want to thank all of you who've come here tonight, but most of all, I want to thank the sheriff for taking this initiative. Because one thing he said when he first came up, I want to help parents and students not come to my jail. Politicians normally don't say that. It's not good for them to say that. Put them in jail. Mike Nearham said it earlier. Let's put them in jail. That's what the people want to hear. But this is the other side of the politicians you do not know about. We have to tell you about them because this is who we are. I also want to thank this young lady, Sarah. She's been working tirelessly to try to get this and coordinate all this together. And she does it with so much passion. And she does it just because. Sergeant Hall, who I work with on a daily basis, this is his time off from the job. So when people start telling you that the county jail is all about putting people in jail, don't care about them, beating them up or whatever have you, you tell them to come here and take a look at this. We're trying to save lives. And that's what this is all about tonight. Thank you, take care, God bless.
Real quick, before we go into question and answer, I want to thank Jim Boyce from the Addictions Program from Quinton Baptist
Right,
Church.
thank you, and they were here the other night
in
as well,
Lakestar.
Quinton Bible Church. Thank you all.